that go? Okay. All right, we'll call our meeting to order, 7:01. Thad, I will seat you for Dan. And if everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all very much. The next item on our agenda is public participation. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to bring forward an issue to the commission that isn't on this evening's agenda, this is your chance to do so. All right, let the record show there is none. We have 3 show cause hearings continued for 209 Bagley, 192 and 214 Painter. We've been discussing these as a group because they're abutting properties. The actions on the 3 are similar with varying degrees. So we'll continue to do that unless there's some reason that we need to specify an option for one and not the others. We've had, I believe, 2 site visits out there. Bill and I were out there, and were you out there?
Yeah, I was out there.
And Bob was out there? Okay, so would you like to summarize the report that you sent to the office?
Carl and I went out, we met with the property owners. There are 2 sections that have been affected. This is a logging operation, basically. It started out in the back of the property at 209, went straight back to the property line. Heavy equipment was obviously used. We did not see that there. That had been removed by the time we got there. But there were big ruts in the dirt. Trees have been cut down. There's a 1 or 2 large stacks of trees. Root balls. It was a mess. Pretty much just cut everything out of the way. We later on asked the owner why this had been done. He initially said it was to protect anything he might decide to do against a tree falling on it. And then he amended that later on, so he was considering putting in a garage. We asked him if he had any plans for a garage. He said he did not. The second area of concern, which is actually, there was a wetland. That incursion was into the upland area. It didn't go into the wetland, but there was a wetland area immediately beyond where the cut had taken place. In front of the house, off the driveway, there was, it looked like someone was starting to build a road. Very wide, 20 to 30 foot wide cut. Pretty much everything was cut down. Stuff was in the stream. There were ruts, root balls, slash everywhere. And as I said, it looked like someone was trying to build a build a road next to and at times in the stream. So that was pretty much.
Okay.
That's summing it up quickly, but
That's fine. Donna or Bob, do you have anything else you would like to add to those remarks?
I think Bill covered it. We did see some oil from the machinery that was on site. It was just, it looked like hydraulic fluid that had leaked onto the mud. So it wasn't a very clean operation.
Was that in the area along the driveway, or where did you notice that?
In the back of the lot, where the
Past the house down in the western portion?
Yeah, where the proposed barn or
It was
garage.
also on the other road down
Yeah.
too, going.
Yeah, off the
one that
driveway.
you said looks like the road going, and there was a lot there in that area.
You think they had some kind of a failure that caused it, or
I just think it's a leaky machine.
leaky machine?
And the thing that just kept impressing me with it was the the fact that, I looked at the amount of logs that were stacked up on the way in, which is a pretty hazardous situation, because there's nothing to secure them from rolling forward, which I think the homeowner is completely aware of that, and he knows that. But the logs that were cleared, it seems like if those are taken away, we still have to address the devastation that's in that roadway there, where that stuff should be taken out of there without further impacting the roadway, but I don't know how you do that, but it just can't be left like that to obstruct the stream and everything else.
Are you talking about the stacked pile of logs
On the
or
way
the
in,
rest
on
of the
the right.
debris?
Even if those are removed, okay, that straightens out what they came for in the
Still got a crack
purpose,
all
but all
around.
the stuff in the roadway, which goes down to the river, and it's like,
Yep.
the trenches, something's gotta be done with all that, that has to be
Okay.
all like
Graded.
graded and repaired, remediated, replanted, or whatever.
So would everyone be in agreement that some sort of restorative of, efforts need to be made over there on the
Yes.
wetland portions?
Absolutely.
All right, could we go back to the hydraulic fluid for a second? Do you, know if that was within the wetlands or the 50-foot buffer, or was it, you think, out of that?
In the back of the house, out of it.
You were there did you go there as well? It's out of it, you think?
Yeah,
Okay,
they didn't, they cleared the back of the house, they cleared in the setback mostly. If you saw the flags, we really didn't get really into it like they did in the front of the house, where they actually drove their tires through the part of the stream.
okay, so in the back, it's borderline, as far as going into the wetlands, the stuff that they cut down, they just pushed over into the wetlands?
Very minimal, yeah, just a couple of top of the branches, most of the stuff is falling back into
Okay.
still in the setback area, but more towards where he wants to put the bar.
Okay. All right, any further comments or anything? or-
There's a lot of comments I think we can make,
Yeah.
in terms of.
Well, let's,
the other two
let's try to
property
keep
owners,
it
but I don't see
germane to,
any reason-
moving forward, so if you have something, bring it to us.
Well, it'll come up later, I'm sure.
Okay.
Most of the damage was on property 209.
Right,
The other two homeowners had advised us during the walk, they kind of signed on to get some tree work done up around their houses, and were told this contractor would come in, was going to come up from below, which made absolutely no sense whatsoever.
right,
I don't know if they were just sold a bill of goods or what, but the vast majority of the damage was on the property at 209. I believe we've been advised that the contractor does not have a permit. He's from out of state, he has penalties pending, I believe, in Massachusetts, and may or may not be related to the homeowner.
okay, well, some of that may or may not be germane to our actions or whatever. Ty, I know you said you, contacted the DEP about the licensing issue, and I'm assuming that they're going to pursue whatever, fines or whatever they
Yeah.
deem appropriate for that.
Yeah, I mean, that's their
So the-
prerogative.
So I would agree with your statement that the bulk of the activity, took place on 209, and that's where the activity started, and then, to a lesser degree on 192, and a lesser degree again on 214.
I would agree with that.
So I think the next thing for us to do, I'm sorry, did you want to bring something forward to us?
Will we have a chance to make any comments at all?
Yeah, I mean, it's not really a public hearing, but you're welcome to make a couple of minutes worth of comments at whatever point you like to.
Okay, well, we had learned something on Sunday. We actually had JMM Wetlands come in, the fellow that Josh had do the markings
Okay?
Does it
along
have
the
to
brook
come up
to
and
determine.
Yeah, come forward, please, and give us your name for the record, and,
Howard Allen, 192 Painter Road.
okay, thank you.
So Jim Callahan and I had JMM Wetland Consulting come in, which was the same firm that Josh had
Flagged
used
it.
earlier, the week before, to flag the rest of the area, so we would have a consistent,
Okay, great.
follow through. So he did all that on Sunday.
Okay,
He
yeah.
filed the report, and we have a copy of it for the committee.
Okay.
And he did, as we were walking through the area, he looked at that area where there was what I also thought might be oil. And he said that that wasn't actually oil. He said it was the breakdown and release of manganese from the soil. He said you can tell that by when you were to touch it, it cracks and breaks up, as opposed to oil, which I think he said kind of spreads.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what he said. And so he said that all in that area by the brook up front, we didn't go in the back property of 209, but he said all that stuff in the front
Okay,
was manganese breakdown. And he said that's the first thing that breaks down in the soils.
okay.
So
Did he make note of that in his report, you think?
I don't know if he did. I don't
Okay.
remember if he did or
All
not.
right, but he didn't really, because he had already done 209, he didn't really revisit that. Is that what you're saying?
Well, he didn't go in the back is what I was referring to, because you
Okay.
guys mentioned there was
Yeah.
something you saw in the back.
Okay.
So we didn't go back there to look at it, but
All
I
right.
assume it's probably all the same.
Okay,
So he
perhaps.
said it was manganese breakdown, and that's the first thing that breaks down in the soil. And then he finished the markings, so there's those colored ribbons all the way up the brook
Okay.
to the end of what he deemed was the activity area.
Okay, great.
All right?
That's helpful.
Yeah, he's from Newtown.
Thank you.
And in that report, he defines the soils and everything that he saw.
Okay, thank you. We'll study that when we get a few minutes. So I think the next
Excuse me.
step,
Could I just mention one thing
Absolutely.
that's come up since, one of the neighbors, Tom Whityak, mentioned that neighbor, Mr. Elliott at 193, I don't know if they're present or not, but, said that they're getting flooding in their yard due to the tree cutting, so I advised that they should come forward now rather than later. So I just figured I'd mention that for the record.
and which property is that in relationship to?
So if you were to go up the driveway to the Bagley
Okay.
home, it's on the left side of the driveway, the long driveway.
The interior lot or
Nope.
at the road? At the road, I'm hearing somebody say? Okay,
You should be the frontmost lot.
okay, and that's 193?
And like I said, they didn't come forward themselves. One of the other neighbors mentioned it, so I mean, the best I could do is I told them to say something.
Okay. All right. All right, so I think we're at the point where the commission needs to give the homeowners a sense of what we're gonna need for application information, for plan information going forward. So they have the property marked for wetlands now. Our fee schedule for these type of activities are based upon the square footage of wetland areas that have been impacted that we anticipate will need some form of mitigation. So in order to assess that, in order to come up with that number, I believe we're gonna need to request a survey in conjunction with either Ty or some other specialist in wetlands restoration to sort of work with the surveyor to come up with a square footage that's been impacted. So that's the first step towards the application B fee. So, that being said, I think we're gonna need to direct the applicants to do that. And then following that, the consensus is that they'll need to come up with some sort of a restoration plan for the impacts, and that would need to come from some sort of a specialist in that field. If the applicants need help finding a qualified person, we should have a list going in the office for those sort of in the area. I know we have Earth Tones, which is in Woodbury, we have, Land Tech, which I think is still in Southbury, and there are others. So I would make a motion to the commission then, I guess, to instruct the applicants to do that.
To, one, get a full survey done of the affected areas, and two, to come up with a remediation plan for the affected areas?
Yeah, they'll need to work in conjunction with a wetland, a wetland specialist or someone that specializes in wetland restoration to determine what the amount of square footage that was impacted.
I think that sounds like a good plan. I'll second that.
Well, that's the way our fee schedule works. And then that being the case, that's the part B application. And then once they have a restoration plan to submit, that would be application Form A. So they actually need 2 applications for each of these cease and desist, the way I understand it. So, staff, maybe you can, we've communicated it verbally, perhaps you can put it into a letter and email each of, or send it to each of them to keep the process going. Any further questions from the applicants while we're on this subject? Yes, sir. Come forward again. Come forward again, please.
What about the fella that we just used that marked out the property?
You can ask him if he has experience with doing wetlands restoration. Most of the time, I don't know what's in his repertoire.
Yeah, he says he's a wetlands consulting services, and he's been involved with this sort of
So
thing
you're
before.
gonna need somebody that's familiar with wetland plantings and restoration efforts. I don't
Okay,
know the
so
man,
so we can speak to him
You can
then.
ask him if that's in his wheelhouse.
Yeah, okay,
And if it's not, he should know somebody.
okay, thank you.
And it's the percentage is what we're looking for.
We're looking, yeah, the amount of square footage within the wetlands that's been impacted. Yes, sir? Come forward, please.
Yeah, Josh Smith. Any regards to the lands that are not at all on debris, logs that are not on the wetlands?
Some of them are still in the setback.
Well, the application is just based on activity within the actual wetlands itself. The activity within the buffer, that will be addressed in the restoration plan.
Okay, and then that is outside of the buffer.
That's between the border of the wetlands and the 50-foot buffer.
He was asking what can he do after that?
I think at this
Work on
juncture,
his property that's outside the buffer.
Yes.
May I have it, a 50-foot buffer flagged off?
You can do that.
Get an approval?
Yep, you can do
to-
that, and then you wanna work on cleaning up the rest of the area?
Yeah,
What was you
everything outside, everything with, I guess, we're
Outside
working
of-
in, everything inside,
Yep,
you know what I mean, around my house.
outside of where you're gonna flag,
Yes, sir.
outside of the 50-foot.
Can we proceed to do
is-
that cleanup?
Is that agreeable to the commission?
Yeah.
I guess I would like to have some idea what you're planning on doing. Because we don't want any more damage done that may cause erosion or siltation going down into the wetland and that sort of thing. I don't think it's a problem if you're just picking up stuff
Debris,
that's already down,
logs and debris.
but I think we want to know what it's going to be. No heavy equipment. I don't want any more skidders back in there.
But if you do use equipment in your not buffered area, you're gonna have to come up with an erosion control measure, either silt fencing or whatever have you, if you're doing anything with heavy machinery up at your house. So the
Okay.
silt doesn't come down into the wetlands.
Okay,
Basically, you're talking behind the house?
Yes.
Because everything in the front, I think, is gonna be within the setback or within the wetlands. Other than the
Okay.
big stack of wood next to the driveway, that, I think, at this point, we don't need that anymore.
That can go.
So you could have a
Okay.
log truck come in and take the logs that are next to the driveway. Is there 2 piles there?
There's technically three.
There's three?
There's those massive
There's the one when you
tulips.
first come in the driveway on the
Yeah,
right.
that's the one
There's one
as
at-
Bob mentioned, I'm most concerned about the one, I'm concerned about that one sliding in the middle of the winter and blocking my driveway.
Get rid of that.
Yeah,
So,
that's good.
okay,
That
that's,
you can remove, and then
that's-
if
that's
you go
kinda
up
the
the driveway,
biggest
there was
part.
one on the left.
there is a small one on the left, and then there's these massive tulips in the back that are on the flat left side. I'm not sure if anyone remembers where I'm describing.
They're
Isaac, do you
down, but they're
remember?
not, they're down, but they're not stacked.
They're down.
Yeah, they're down, but they're not stacked. And they're big. Some of them are like 80, 90 feet long. Maybe more.
Almost 4 foot round.
But you're saying as far as anything coming up to the home, you need a silt? you-
No, if you're gonna do any heavy remission, if you just wanna pull the brush away,
Yeah.
pull the brush away. But if
Oh,
you're doing
understood.
anything with landscaping,
Understood.
you need to
Yeah, I
have
saw
silts
those
there.
Yes, no, there's no reason for us to bring any more machinery up on top of those banks.
Well, they're gonna need something to get those big tulip trees out of there.
Well, that's what I'm concerned about.
I
I
don't-
don't want equipment and tearing it up.
Sorry, that's what I was trying to delineate between, because those aren't really up on the bank of the home, those are on the
Those are-
flats to the
Yeah,
left.
over the top of the hill and down. on
Wait,
the
yeah,
left.
they're back on the flat part of the left, right up against my neighbor's evergreens. It's a very flat area.
Is that outside the buffer or inside?
That is outside of the buffer. Yeah.
So how would you put,
Log truck could have picked it.
how, yeah, can you safely get them out with a log truck, or how would you
Do
have to get
do
them
you
out of
wanna,
there?
You're gonna have
would you like to
put a-
meet me
you're
on the
gonna have
property and
to
just
create a
discuss it,
road.
Isaac?
It's up to the logger that's gonna see if he can reach over and pull that out.
Okay, and
If it's outside that,
do I wanna get that from him and give that to you, Ms. Ty? So,
yeah, it's not a bad
Yeah,
idea.
just keep her.
just
in
wanna make
mind.
sure you guys get the right
It's a
permissions you
50
need.
foot buffer and flag, and we'll
Okay.
know where the trees lie.
Alright. I think I've taken enough
Okay.
of your time, thank you.
Excellent.
Do we want
Alright,
anything
so we-
done immediately to stabilize particularly the front area? I mean, we're coming up to winter.
Why don't we give it another month and see where we are with the plans they submit and so forth. I don't know what all they could really do up in there,
I don't either.
other than put down straw or do something like that, but that might be counterproductive depending on what they decide they're gonna do, so why don't we see,
Are we talking about the muddy front section?
yeah, where
Yeah.
it goes up towards the neighbors.
So the consultant had mentioned shoring that up with wood chips from chipping up the debris.
But that'll be in the
Yeah.
plan.
That should be in the plan.
Okay, I'll make sure that's drawn up then.
Yeah, let's not do anything there until we see something.
in the plan then.
If that's what he wants to do. The issue with that is if the brook comes up, then all the wood chips are down, plugging up a pipe someplace, so that's the only issue kinda with that. Alright, so we made a motion, do I have a second?
I'll say.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, that's good, so that carries, so that's all we really have for you folks tonight. Tired. We have old business, 1674, which is 1550 Kettletown Road. I know we had a site visit out there,
Yes.
I'm not sure,
Yes, Bob and I went out to that.
alright, would you like to,
Sure.
could I, do you have that, plan here?
I have it
I
right
haven't seen it yet, maybe I could take, oh, here we go, great, thank you, I haven't seen this yet.
Okay. So, let me just get my notes. Okay, so there's a 4 to 5 bedroom dwelling proposed for this lot. There's a sweet spot right in that area that it's like the only way that house can be situated. Because there's Kettletown Brook running along the west side. Then there's a slight depression running along like the south side. Then you have Kettletown Road on the east side. And then there's the north side of the lot, which also has pretty steep grade. So the house will sit right on top. It has to be 50 feet away from the road. There's ledge between the brook and where the house is situated. So, you know, there's not much wiggle room. But my only concern, is where we have the septic tank. You can see there's a steep area here. They're gonna have some, well, the septic tank and the leachate field is gonna be infill. And we have this grade here, and it looks like they're going to have terraces. And then we have a retaining wall that's 25 feet from the wetland delineation right here. So that's, you know, that's my concern. They're gonna stockpile topsoils here, as long as they have some kind of erosion control, because this is the depressed wetland area over here. Not very big. But there's not a lot of options.
All right.
The one thing I noticed, and I think Don and I were talking, when they're gonna put in the leaching fields or bring in the select field to do it, and build a retaining wall, I would just hope that the retaining wall is an engineered, designed wall. Because if they put a fieldstone wall or something that gives way, that whole thing will just fail because of the slope and everything, I think.
Yeah, so I don't know what the flow data is, if we have any flow data, if that would ever compromise the retaining wall. But also, I think the health department, I think it has to be like 50 feet from any kind of flowing water. I don't know if we have but it was engineered, so I imagine they
Well-
thought of that.
And anybody else been out there? Was it just you?
Did he also
You
mention
and
that it
Bob?
wasn't gonna be 4 or 5 bedrooms, he might reduce it, or was it?
Well, I think it was, I think they were going big,
Yeah,
just to
okay.
get approved, but then they were
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
go smaller, like
If it's done properly,
1,800,
it's a
2,000.
beautiful spot.
Yeah.
Well, here's kind of my issue with this lot. This borders on Kettletown Brook, which a number of years ago, we gave it, and we increased the setback, or the buffer area on a number of brooks around town that we determined to be of particular high value in that they had a fisheries content to them. So we increased it to 100 feet instead of the 50 that we have around the most of the town. And if I understand this drawing correctly, the entire thing is within that 100-foot setback. It looks like
Yes.
it's out in the
Yes.
street,
Yeah.
essentially. And they're as close as,
48.
I don't, less than 40 feet to the actual wetlands.
Yeah.
And it's on top of ledge, on top of that, which exacerbates the matter. So, I'm not sure how I would be able to really get too enthusiastic about this plan.
I don't see how you do it.
I'm sorry?
I don't see how you can do it if it's that close.
Well, this appears as though it jogs in and then this is an 80 scale. So, you know, an 80 scale is out here, so 100 feet is essentially out at the edge of the road right away.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it wouldn't be, you know, out of the question to grant them some sort of injection into the buffer area, but I think that's a significant intrusion, and it's an intrusion in an area that's gonna be very difficult to keep from having
Yeah.
issues, shall we say, both with this and with the septic.
And with, you know, even roof runoff and yard runoff and
So,
things like that, it's gonna be tough.
my only thought here would be go to ZBA, reduce the size of the building, and go to ZBA and see if they'll let you move it closer to the road.
Get a variance.
Yeah, they're just jumping the roof drains straight down to the brook.
When was the 100-foot, setback?
I was pretty sure it was, but maybe, well, no, I appreciate that. I
They put
thought
it
that
4,
was,
5, 6 years ago,
what's that?
increased the setback
Oh,
on those
yeah,
particular
more than that
streets.
now, I think, no. Ty is saying it's not listed in what she has over there, but that was sort of my recollection,
So those
was
are
it?
larger waterways.
Yeah.
I saw that. I wasn't sure if we had a separate list.
So does that 100-foot setback, does that apply for the entire
You're right.
length of the river? Or
Yeah.
is it segmented?
No, I think it's the entire length, but she's not seeing it in what we have here, so
Well,
we may have to look into that a little more.
I would still say that, given the proximity to that brook,
I think
we
all
have
the same,
significant concerns
all
about
the
this, even if
s-
it's not specifically listed as a 100-foot
My,
setback.
my going concern is, and I've had to deal with this before, was that you have a building lot, and then a buddy of mine the same way has a building lot, and the rules change, and taxes, this is still taxed as a building lot for years. Nobody's informed the landowner that they no longer can build on it, because the 100-foot setback rule deems the lot inaccessible and unbuildable, which should be taxed as an open space.
Yep,
Has
should,
it been?
right.
That I don't know. I've
You're
been,
looking at
I've been
legalities.
through that myself with the town, with the piece of property, and it
You
doesn't,
deal with it, I'm like,
it doesn't really affect what we do here, how they're taxed on it, unfortunately. If this was a pre-approved subdivision, I don't know, does this have some sort
don't
of
know.
pre-approvals? I don't know either. I don't know either.
That does make a difference.
Huge difference.
But doesn't classification as a building lot, doesn't that presuppose that you can build something on it?
So they would have addressed these issues already.
Usually the building lot.
Usually it's done as vacant property unless it's had subdivision approval or it had building permits in place or something like that. And then they change it from raw land to a building lot, and then your taxes increase at that point. I don't know the history of this piece of property. Would you like to come forward and make
Yep.
comments?
For the record, my name is Fred D'Amico. I'm the project engineer. No, the lot was not in a subdivision.
Okay,
I believe it was an existing lot. However, it's listed as a building lot. We can try to get a variance and try to move the house forward. And it's very possible they might reduce it to 25 feet, and that would bring the house forward. But unfortunately, the only area for the septic, the best area for the septic was where it's located here. And that would be the best thing for building the septic to have the least chance of polluting the river. And that's the reason why we're putting the fill. It's not terraced. It's actually a 2-to-1 slope. It's just filled here. You could actually see it on the cross section, and then it's a 2-to-1 slope down. And I put a 3-foot high retaining wall just so that the fill wouldn't keep going any further, because the existing ground is the existing grade is steep, and you could almost never catch up. So rather than keep on going farther, I put it's only a 3-foot high retaining wall. So that should, we can design it. We could have structural, engineering on it. But I don't think it's going to be a big issue because it's only 3 feet high. But unfortunately, this area the activity as far as the fill goes is it's 25 feet away from the wetlands. But we actually tried to put the system over here. That's why we tested over here also, but it was actually closer to this wetlands here. And then there's actually an intermittent stream that comes down here. It's actually the water runoff from the road. So it's dry now, but the runoff would come down and go into the brook here. So rather than keep it on that side, we try to put it up here. It's the closest and farthest away we could keep it, away from the wetlands. Unfortunately, the lot, that's the existing size of the lot, and there is actually, I think we got a 1/4 acre in the regulated area, and the whole entire lot is in the regulated area. If the 100-foot setback is from the wetlands, is basically right up to here at this one corner. So the whole lot is in a regulated area. There is no, we're not doing any activity in the wetlands. We could also, unfortunately, when I noticed this, we're proposing silt fence all around it, and I think it only shows up on the, I just noticed, it only showed up as a thin line. For some reason, the font didn't show up, the silt fence that shows like that. We can, if it would help, we could put a fence to delineate this area so that in the future, it would, if it's approved, whoever builds or ends up with the lot does not start intruding farther into the wetlands or into the regulated area. And we could also, if you'd like, we could put a conservation area right along the stream so that assured that nothing from here, can ever be touched. And that's been done quite often.
How close is the proposed work to the stream? Forget the 100 setback for the moment. What's the actual distance to the edge, to the?
The actual distance from the retaining wall to the wetlands is 25, to the stream, it's probably a little 30.
And then
It's another 5 feet.
how far
It's
to
steep.
the
To which side?
to leach field? No,
Oh, the leaching field is over 50 feet. The actual leaching field is over 50 feet to the wetlands and 55 feet to the stream.
And this is ledge, I'm being told, where it goes down
There's,
towards the brook?
no, there's not ledge on that. The ledge on that side is actually 60 inches down. It's 5 feet down.
On which side are we
On
talking?
this area here, it's 5 feet down.
How about the back side?
On this side here, I think it was worse.
I'm talking about the back of the house, the west side of the house.
Oh, the back of the house
Yes.
is ledge right about at the edge, so we're just off from the ledge. We're just,
Okay, so you would have to blast for the
No.
basement?
no, no, it's not calling for a basement.
That's on slab?
It's gonna be a slab on grade. It would be because it would make a mess if we put if we tried to put a basement in there right on the edge, it
This is
would
why I'm
cause a problem.
asking.
Yes.
Carl, when we were there, when Don and I were there, it's an interesting piece. You can almost see how it sets, and when what the potential purchaser mentioned, I think his father lived on the street behind or something, and that's why he wanted to be there. But, that's at least what I gleaned from it. He did say that he was open to bringing the size of the house down, but it almost, if everything is done right, it can be really, it just reminded you of this mini falling water thing, because you'd be hanging there with the house if it was done right and everything was held back. It could be really something special if it was done properly and every bit of engineering was done to prevent anything that would impact the stream.
It is only a 4-bedroom too. It's not a 5-bedroom. We tried to.
He mentioned 3, didn't I think?
Yeah, no, I thought someone said 5 at one time.
Yeah, no, I picked that up from somewhere.
What about the reserve leach field?
The reserve area is right in front of it's gonna be in that same filled area. So the reserve area is only 12 feet, closer than the primary.
Are the primary galleys and then the reserve galley, are those in virgin ground, so to speak?
No, they're in fill, but actually it's the reserve area. So I did actually misspoke. The reserve area is what's 55 feet to the wetlands and brook. The primary area is 12 feet farther. So the top row is the primary and the lower area is the reserve area. So the primary actually is going to be 12 feet farther. So the primary area is actually, yeah.
So both of those sets of galleys are located in an area of fill,
Yes.
The tank is too.
tank too?
Yeah, look, if you look at,
well, the tank's up front.
I see it.
The tank's up front,
Well, I'm
yes.
not see- He's not, as far as I can tell, he's not really showing grading past, oh, okay, here it is.
The thin solid lines are the proposed contours.
Yeah, I got it now, thank you.
Can the house be shifted forward, Carl, like you said? That sounded like a good idea.
You gotta go get a.
I think that's something that, they should, should apply for, because that would be one feasible and prudent alternative to what you've,
Like I said, we could certainly apply for a variance.
yes.
I guess my concern is this a pre-existing lot?
What I believe, what I think we're gonna end up do is tabling this tonight so that we can look into that aspect of it. It'll give them an opportunity to submit to the ZBA, and it will give us an opportunity to, review the brooks that we put the extra protective measures in place for, and see whether it was omitted somehow, or whether I'm, not remembering the events as I thought they were. So I don't see us coming to a vote on this evening. So I'm just trying to give them, a little idea of what direction or what other information we might want with them, while we do a little bit more of our own homework. And did you submit a wetlands report with your application?
Yes, you should have it in your file.
Okay. Have you been able to achieve a zero net increase in water from the site?
I can, I did not show that on here, but that should be fairly easy, because there's not much impervious area.
What you're gonna do for driveway drainage, roof drainage,
I could add that.
that sort of thing?
Yes, I could add that.
We'll need that, please.
Okay.
No fertilizer?
Any other thoughts? All right,
Just the wall.
you want a detail on the wall?
An engineer design on it to make sure it doesn't give way.
Do you have approval for the septic system?
No, we're in the process of getting that.
And putting that into, new fill is an acceptable
Oh,
method?
yes, matter of fact, that's a requirement.
Okay,
It's in select fill.
okay,
The retaining wall, you don't need the final design at this time before approval, or that would be one of the contingencies after approval.
Look at what the design of that.
Okay,
yeah, I think we need to have a detail on how
Okay.
you're planning to do that. Do you have the wood line and the clearing limit shown on here?
I could add that to it. It's basically, it was gonna be right where the silt fence was. I wasn't
Okay.
planning on going any
Call
farther than
out,
that.
Please, in your revisions?
Yes.
Any other thoughts? All right, well then I'll make a motion to table application 1674 until our next regular meeting. Bob seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, sir.
Okay.
That's where
Thank
we
you.
are for tonight.
All right, thank you.
All right, you're welcome. All right, that came from that direction. You want
Yeah.
that back? All right. Okay, so we have one application which we have accepted and we'll be scheduling at least one site visit for in the upcoming week. Bills and receipts, we have a minute. I'm sorry? We're not skipping anything. We have a new business, application which is accepted at the office and we'll be scheduling a site visit this month. And then we're on to bills and receipts.
There are no bills, and the receipts were $1,185 for the 1675 application.
Okay. And then we have minutes, from July and September. I don't know, has anybody had a chance to?
I have not had a chance to.
Anybody, I guess we're good with those then.
Okay.
Alright. So just before we close, Ty, you have anything you want to bring us up to speed on or anything?
I really do not.
All
I
right,
think you guys
so-
covered everything.
I'm gonna do, said, I want to put in my resignation by next November will be my last meeting.
Okay. So you need to, copy the town clerk, I think is how that works.
Yeah.
So you can copy us and the town clerk, you can send it to first selectman if you want, but I think the town clerk is where it's supposed to go to. All right, and you're moving to North Carolina, or is that the plan?
Really?
Good for you.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
That big pile of dirt that was taken out from the shopping center area and piled up there, you know,
Old Waterbury Road.
Waterbury Road, what's the status of that? Because I thought there was a timetable on that thing.
As far as I know, they removed everything that was in the buffer of the brook that runs behind there. And, I think, they were allowed to leave the rest of it. But we can look back at the minutes and the permits or whatever for that if you like.
So somebody went out there and looked and made sure that they were.
I wanna say that might have been Jessica
Okay.
when she first got here, and that's what they did, was they moved the, they were all the way back within 15 or 20 feet of the brook, and they went in and they took whatever, 50 or 100 feet.
Because from the road, it's hard to tell that.
The road you can't, there's really no difference from the road.
It's like the same big pile.
If you want, we can, schedule we can schedule a visit over there and review the case file or whatever on that. I kinda was wondering about that the other day myself, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I was
So,
too.
What's taking them so long?
they have no use for the material anywhere, I think,
What's
is,
taking so long to get it done?
They have nowhere for it to go, well,
I
Why are they
don't-
finished?
I don't know what
oh,
they're
right,
doing.
yeah.
It's just like there, no one's working on it, nobody's doing anything, not putting a parking lot on it,
So,
it's just there.
we have a few bits of homework for you.
Yeah, I'm taking notes, so I don't know much
so
about
one,
this.
I don't know if you're familiar with
No.
that situation, but, when they started working on the plaza at exit 15, they excavated a considerable amount of dirt, which they took up Old Waterbury Road and deposited on one of their other residential properties. And by the time, we were made aware of it, they had a pile that was 30 to 40 feet high and a couple of 100 feet long and 50, 75 yards wide.
Okay.
So, that would probably be under, what's the name of what's the name of that corporation over there? What is it? SRG or what
Right
it's
on
gonna
the sign
be?
when you drive by.
Yeah, it's gonna be under the plaza
Yep.
ownership.
Okay.
So if you want, you can pull that out. You could talk to Jessica, cause I think she was just
She was
kind of
involved
here
in that?
when that
Okay.
was coming down. And for whatever reason, apparently the zoning commission allowed him to leave it there. That's not my thing, but I think they let him leave it there for some reason. So that's one.
Okay.
And then two, the 1550 Kettletown. Can you see if there was ever any kind of permits, building, zoning, or whatever, anything that would indicate there's any kind of prior authorization for?
No, I've looked at that file, and
There's
it's
nothing?
not part of a subdivision.
So it
It's
was never in a building lot per se.
Well, the term building lot is always
Well,
one of
other than the
those
assessor's
conversations.
use of the term.
Yeah, there's never been an approval for a building on the lot, if that's what you're asking, that
Okay.
came through the land use, but it is the dimensions and what is acceptable through zoning as a lot, and it's separated that way as its own entity, map, block, and lot number. But it wasn't part of a subdivision where it was a planned out and approved.
So it was taken
Lots.
off of a larger piece of property next to it or something?
It's I don't know how long it's gone back, but it exists on its own. It's not like somebody's dividing it off of a piece of property. It's
Okay.
there. It's it's its own entity.
Okay.
But there has never been an approved plan for that lot.
Okay. And then, I don't know, one more thing, if there's anything else you can do to check the history on that
Kettleton Brook.
situation. I can't remember how many years ago that was. I'm thinking it had to be more than 10 at this point. I don't know if we have any minutes or recordings or
Gotcha.
anything. Would that, let's see, would we have done that with, would that have come to a referendum? Do you remember, Bill? Is that something that we would have done a referendum on?
Will you,
I think we had to, because we're changing
regulations.
standard
Right.
regulatory setback,
All right.
so that had to.
Yeah,
go
you
through
would have,
So,
you-
so maybe we can find it, if there was any kind of further information in the referendum and see whether or not it didn't, maybe I'm just not remembering it, but, you know, maybe I'm,
We might have just forgotten it.
I might, I don't know.
You and I were here,
Yep,
but we weren't running anything.
well, regardless,
And,
it's a long time ago, so if anything you can do to verify that one way or the other would be good.
yep, absolutely.
And if it was just forgotten, maybe we should see if we can get it put on the list.
Well, if it was in the referendum, we can certainly add it to the list. If it wasn't, then it is what it is
No,
at
I
this
know.
point.
No, we have to go through another.
You have to
referendum.
do it
Yeah,
next
and
time.
I
Yeah.
don't think we're gonna do that.
Probably not for that.
All right, any further questions, discussion? All right, I guess we'll motion to adjourn then, 8:53.
Boy, that's great. I thought we were gonna be here.
Welcome aboard
Ditto,
too.
ditto.
Just,
Yeah, trial under fire. Well, she's been doing it. She's just like officially already.
Oh, really? Oh, that's
Yeah.
great.
She's
Congratulations.
no longer floating, she's landed.
All right.
Yes.
Yeah, you'll be sorry.
Yeah, whenever I have to look for an email, I'm like, okay, floater. Where's floater?
So we're just gonna fill out these.
Oh, yeah. All right, well, we've adjourned, but let's look at this. So everyone received one of these. They're asking for our input on, if we have any comments or what have you. I guess they really just want one from the commission, but if you wanna take a couple minutes, we don't have to do this now. When is this, when do they need this?
It's kind of unofficial, just
Okay.
submit it to the land use office.
So if
and
everybody
see-
has a copy, they wanna look at this at home, if you have some kind of comments or something you'd like put on here, why don't you shoot me an email, and then after I hear from a few, I'll compile it and,
There'll
submit
there'll
it.
be meetings over the course of this process
Okay.
where, they'll
Alright.
be discussing, and you can come forward if you want as a group
so,
and discuss. There's also an online survey for all the residents in the
Okay.
town. So that's more of like a department heads
Alright.
as commission members, but also all the residents are welcomed and encouraged to do the online
Alright.
survey. If you go to the website,
So
it's a
can,
little bit more,
so we can,
detailed.
do we get back to you on this?
Yeah,
Or
if you wanna
can we
look-
discuss it at next meeting?
we could do
Yeah,
that.
That's a good idea.
Okay.
We don't
I'd like
need
to
it, we
discuss
don't need it by the next meeting?
No, like I said, over the course of
Alright.
several months, there's gonna be opportunities to come
All right.
forward
So I'm
and
sending you
as a
home with
group.
homework. Bring it back with some ideas next month.
I filled it out once before,
All right.
and sent it in.
Never too old for homework. Thank you, everybody.
Do we need a motion to adjourn?
I'm sorry?
Oh, we did a motion to adjourn.
Yeah, we already adjourned.
Great.
Yeah, Bonnie, I won't be here next month.
Florida?
Okay.
You going to Florida? Florida, North Carolina? A new tenant?
5 months.
Let's see, 5 months.